Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Today will be the focus of today's webinar will be remote working collaboration for credit unions with Microsoft Teams. Just to introduce myself, my name is Peter Hunt. I'm the head of marketing here at Action Point, and joining us in a little while will be Finian Nally, head of Microsoft Cloud Services. I just wanted to take a second to acknowledge the difficult circumstances that many of us find ourselves in. Action Point are not immune to the challenges posed by COVID-19. And just to let you know, we're here to help. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding remote working or anything in your IT setup, please don't hesitate to ask either me or Finian. Vincent Healy, our credit union lead, is also on this webinar, and he's also available to help with your queries. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So Finian's going to run through his slideshow on Microsoft Teams within credit unions. And there's some live elements in that as well, where he'll be doing some demonstrations on some of the key features as well. So very interesting indeed. And excuse any lags that happen over the broadcast. It's an interesting time, as I said. We'll have a Q&A at the end of the presentation as well. So at any point in the presentation, if you have a question, just stick it in the question box, and we'll get to the questions at the very end. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker for today. Finian Nally brings 15 years of experience in the technology industry to his role at Action Point. He heads up the Microsoft Cloud Services. He's the head of Microsoft Cloud Services here at Action Point. Excuse me, Finian, I've done an intro loads of times. And he's well positioned to talk about remote working in credit unions. And just before we kick off the presentation, I'd like to just do a very quick poll for our listeners here today. So I'm just going to launch the poll there in front of you, and if you can just take a couple of seconds to answer the poll, it'll make for some interesting questions at the end. So the question is, what is the biggest challenge faced by your credit union with regard to COVID-19? Please select one of the following: communication with customers, communication with employees, health and safety in branch, including hand sanitizer, signage, PPE, and social distancing measures, cybersecurity / compliance. So please pick one of the following. I'll give maybe 20 or 30 seconds there just to get that done. Brilliant. I shall hand over to Finian now. Finian, if you can take it away.
Thanks, Peter. Good morning, everyone. And just to prove that I am working from home like so many people, let's say a quick hello video, but I'll turn that off for the majority of the presentation. As Peter said, we're going to go through a number of topics here today. I'm going to go through a few slides, but also jump into a live demo, I suppose, to try and make it real for everyone here today. I'm going to discuss the landscape of teamwork, where we are today, some of the challenges that are out there. We're going to give an overview of Microsoft Teams and what it can do. And then we'll jump into the demo and get a bit more specific and make it a bit more relevant to everyone on this call, and discuss aspects about how your internal teams can communicate better together, how you can work with some of the external people, like your board members and various other people who may not be able to access the core office, and also factoring in I suppose, the consolidation that's happened within the credit union sector of late, how we can deliver more effective meetings across not only our HQ, but maybe some of those other branches that we've acquired over the last number of years. I'll also discuss briefly how we can leverage Microsoft Teams to help you engage better with your customers, in terms of video calling, one-on-one communication, those type of things. And lastly, I'll briefly discuss aspects around security and compliance, because, as great as all these technology tools are, it's important that we put security and compliance at the forefront of everything that we do. So to discuss really teamwork starting off, and this is a slide that I've been using for about 12 to 18 months right now. And I suppose it's more relevant than ever in this day and age. We're seeing more and more people having to collaborate together. Gone are the days of where I'm in my individual team, be it, the accounts team or the operations team or the sales team or whatever team, and that's where I work. The reality is people are collaborating across multiple teams, delivering new and innovative ways of delivering service, coming up with new products, engaging with third parties. So collaboration is core to everything that we do. In addition to that, I suppose we're no longer collaborating just between the four walls within our business. As I alluded to a few minutes ago, the collaboration or the consolidation that's been seen in the credit union sector has really meant we brought in a whole lot of new teams who are now remote in some sub offices. some in larger offices, and in other locations. We're also bringing in external parties from community groups, board members, committee members, and even aspects of regulated bodies coming in and collaborating with us as well. Factoring all of that together, we still have a very diverse workforce. People have different expectations as to how they work. Some people are coming from a background of being completely IT illiterate versus others who've come from backgrounds of using key systems but may struggle to adapt to new ways of working. And then we have to factor in as well, if we look at our employee profile, we have a broad spectrum of employees there. Some maybe, digital natives who are, used to communicating digitally, working very efficiently, working effectively, but others maybe, in the industry for the last 20, 30 years, and these new tools and new ways of communicating and collaborating can be a challenge. And when we factor in, I suppose, everything that's gone on over the last number of weeks, with a lot of businesses, being an essential service, credit unions certainly are operating at a good and solid degree right now, but there are challenges out there. And as people try to adapt this new way of working, the reality of what we see out there is that often that is very disjointed. People are trying to be more efficient, but maybe they don't have the tools to do it. They're familiar with some tools, maybe they're using WhatsApp or Dropbox or various other tools that we as a business maybe have no visibility over or actually no control over. So it's creating risk within our business and introducing new challenges, new compliance challenges, and new IT security risks. And often that is fundamentally compounded by our actual approach to our IT infrastructure. Previously we may have had, platforms that were just good enough. We may not have had a formal technology strategy. We've done some consolidation. We now have 3 or 4 what previously were isolated credit unions or standalone credit unions now are part of our wider group, and they've brought in, fragmented systems, legacy back office systems, and we're struggling to integrate that. So how do we start to balance that? How do we start to, I suppose, improve things, work better together, but also, bring in the likes of our board, make them more effective, deliver information to them more effective, engage with our community more effective, and engage with our customers more effectively. So one of the key ways we see in doing that is using Microsoft 365. And Microsoft 365, I suppose, certainly for our customers and I suppose industry-wide and globally has become one of the tools of choice for people to go to. It delivers a number of key things and helps us, I suppose, do 5 key things. One is get more done, helping our teams work better together, building our business, building our brand, but fundamentally while doing all of that and helping everyone work more efficiently and working better together, it's safeguarding our data, it's applying those key security and compliance rules and simplified to do, and making it very simple. So in terms of the conversation today, I'm not going to dive into the breadth of Microsoft 365, but what I am going to discuss is Microsoft Teams, which is a key component within Microsoft 365. And we see it as the go-to tool for businesses, both large and small right now, in delivering teamwork very, very effectively. And often I get asked when I'm having that conversation with people around Microsoft Teams, they say, oh, it's a very new tool, or, I'm not overly familiar with that. The reality of Teams is it's 3 years old as of 2 weeks ago, so it has been around for a long time. And right now, over 44 million users globally use Teams on a day-to-day basis. And what's interesting about that, 11 million of that 44 million have been brand new to Teams within the last month alone. So showing the demand for remote working and illustrating how important this tool is for not only remote workers, but also for businesses to work effectively together. So to touch on some of the aspects of Teams, and I will be going into a live demo very shortly, but what does it do? So at a simple level, Teams can do one-on-one instant messaging and group conversation. So we're able to get that very, very quick and easy conversation, be it between people in different offices, between people within the same office, but also people who may be working externally, be it partners, be it accounts people, be it board members or whoever. So previously, if we think about how we would have communicated, how we would have done that instant messaging, some of it would have been done over email. Often that got lost in communication in the volumes of email that we all get on a day-to-day basis. We may have sent it over WhatsApp, so it's gone out on some consumer-based system that we have no control or no insight into that conversation. Or it's just been done over the phone and left in voicemail or something like that. So what the one-on-one instant message chat allows us to do, it allows us to, number one, see who's available, see who has a small green dot beside them to see, right, that person is available. I know they're at their computer or at their device, and they'll receive my message and probably they'll reply very, very quickly. Or alternatively, they have a red dot beside them, meaning I know they're working today, but I can see that they're probably in a meeting and not available to respond very quickly. So I'm able to get that very, very quick and easy conversation going in terms of, can you send me on this person's account number? Can you send me on this phone number? When is the latest board meeting being scheduled? Are we going to have a committee meeting on Friday about our compliance? All very simple and quick piece of communication we can deliver very effectively through Microsoft Teams. From there, we look to elevate things and say, well, actually, while that instant messaging is good, it is no substitute for that almost face-to-face aspect. And what Teams allows us to do is to deliver powerful online meetings. So I can have those meetings on a one-to-one basis. Maybe I'm in one office and I'm working on the audit committee, and I need to chat to someone in another office, who's working on the audit committee on that particular group. I can start this one-on-one video conversation very quickly. But I can also elevate that to a much larger video conference and bring up to 250 people into that. So if we think about our board meetings, right, we don't want our board coming in on premise right now. There's a lot of risks around that. We want to ensure we're obeying those social distancing rules. Well, actually, let's leverage this tool to have that powerful online meeting, allow everyone to come in from whatever device they have, be it that they're on a tablet at home, a laptop, or even something as simple as a mobile phone. They're able to get that full-blown experience within that. And leveraging those online meetings, I'm able to get a lot of, I suppose, advantages in terms of my video conversation. I'm able to do things like blur my background. So I'm working from home right now. Maybe people don't want to see that I'm at the kitchen table or I'm at the bedroom or in my back bedroom because it's my de facto office right now. So I'm able to blur my background. I'm also able to take meeting notes dynamically and save that against the meeting. But even more so, I'm able to do things like record the meeting. So at the click of a button, I can record that meeting. So, let's assume we had a meeting with 10 people and 2 people couldn't make it. We're able to instantly record that so that those other 2 people can review that at a later date. Or maybe someone needs to come in and review it and take minutes on that meeting after the fact. So it gives us that permanent record of exactly what's going on and who's what was said throughout that meeting. Some other aspects to touch on, Teams does allow for full-blown enterprise calling and voice as well. It's natively built into Office 365, so all your key applications, your Word, your Excel, your PowerPoint, are all fully accessible within here. It's almost like a jump-off point for your key applications. So if you were working on a Word document, let's say it's the agenda for the next board meeting, we can instantly share that among a number of staff and say, okay, I'd like your comments on this. Is this everything we want to discuss? Have we got the minutes of the last meeting? And have we got the latest financial reports, the compliance reports, etc., etc. So we're able to do that very dynamically. We're able to open up a document, collaborate very, very easy around that, and give commentary around that. If we think about the old way of working, it was, okay, I start an email, I attach a number of files to that email, and I send that email to 1, 2, or 20, 22 people, as many as you can think of. That conversation typically happened over a number of days then. One person gave input, here I've made a change to this file. Another person gave input over email, and before you knew it, you had a long, long thread of email with numerous different versions of the same file. So what Teams does is it tries to eliminate that type of conversation, those reply all emails, and centralize the conversation. So let's say I'm on a week of annual leave and I come back in next week. I can see all the conversation history around those files. I can see why they got to this level. I can see who gave input into it and understand fundamentally how we got to this stage. So Teams gives us that powerful platform to be able to do that very, very effectively. I keep using the word powerful platform, and one thing to note about Teams, it is fully extendable. So Microsoft have designed this to say, well, actually, we're not going to give you a tool, or we're not only going to give you a tool that works within the Microsoft ecosystem, but we're also going to give you a tool that can integrate with many, many third-party systems, because we understand that fundamentally you are using a lot of different systems, and many of them are non-Microsoft. So it gives you the ability to jump into or to integrate with other platforms and helps you surface the information from within those platforms. So for example, I may have a Power BI report of our latest financials or the latest membership figures. I can easily surface that information through Microsoft Teams, again, within the context of that piece of work or that project that I'm working on. I'm also able to build out applications. So if I wanted to build quick and easy line of business applications, maybe to replace paper-based tasks or to improve efficiencies in the organization, The example I'm showing right now is an application Microsoft developed a number of weeks ago. I think it took them 3 or 4 days to actually develop it. It was a crisis management tool, and they wanted a tool to send out into the world to say, well, actually, if you're in an organization, maybe you need a crisis management tool that records key employee details, gives them a place where they can go to access FAQs, and gives them advice on what to do around everything COVID-19. The beauty of Microsoft Teams is that I can easily grab that application and leverage Microsoft Teams to deliver that to my staff. In other words, me as a staff member, I'm using Microsoft Teams on a day-to-day basis, and the company have given me these extra capabilities by including this crisis management app. This could just as easily be a HR app, an annual leave app, an expenses app, you know, some kind of form, and anything you want. So a lot of flexibility is built into Teams out of the gate. And lastly, I suppose the thing to note about the breadth of Microsoft 365 and Teams in particular is that this is something that is constantly evolving and constantly innovating. So in terms of the feature set that is in there, if we think previously, you know, we bought a piece of software, we installed it, and we had that same version of that software for 3, 4, 5 years. It never changed. The reality of Teams is it's constantly improving and constantly iterating. So for example, inline message translation, if you're having an instant messaging with a colleague that is coming in from a different language, you can get that inline message translation. Doing things like having live captions and subtitles, specifically addressing accessibility issues within your organization or even external to your organization, and being able to access things over mobile devices. So there's lots and lots of continuous improvements being made, and giving you the advantage to say, well, actually, Teams now becomes my central platform. It's the place I'm going to start and finish work in. I'm going to try and move out of the email world, you know, that siloed email world, into a world where I can collaborate much better with the people within my organization. So that's all great, and slideware is good and can be, you know, very nice, but I think the proof is in the pudding, and to really see it in action is, you know, the best way to actually experience Teams. So what I have here is I have a demo tenant here with a number of users in it, and I'm going to, I suppose, talk through a few scenarios and deliver a few scenarios as to how Teams can potentially be used within credit unions. So I mentioned earlier on the basic level instant messaging. So I can see here I have my colleagues who I've sent instant messages to previously. I've been working with Alex, I've been working with Emily, and I've sent them messages. So I can see the full message history, I can see the full chat history. I can easily send a message to Alex. So I can go, hi Alex, how is prep going for the board meeting? So a quick and easy message there. You know, I didn't have to send an email, I didn't have to pick up the phone, and instantly Alex can get that. And Alex can reply back very quickly and say, yeah, everything's going well, and I've done some work on it quite quickly. So Alex has replied, yeah, going great, I've just uploaded the IT security document. Brilliant. So quick and easy, effective communication. But I can also see that, you know, right, Alex works in one of our other branches. They're brand new into the organization. We've just done some consolidation. You know, where does he sit in the whole spectrum of things? Well, I can see Alex sits down here. He's marketing assistant, and he reports into Miriam, who's a director, and I can see Miriam reports into our CEO or something like that. So especially in this world where we're in a business that is growing and growing, it becomes very easy to see who people are, who their colleagues are, and what's going on. And I can also see that I mentioned earlier on about this green dot. So I have this green dot beside Alex, so I know he's available. If I look over here at Emily, I can see Emily has an orange dot, so I know, right, Emily is actually logged in today, but chances are she's away from her desk right now. So if I send her a message, I shouldn't expect an instant reply. So a lot of very, you know, quick and easy features to allow us to adapt. What I can also do very quickly here is elevate this up. So, you know, Alex, I can see he's working on the IT security document, and I want to have a conversation with him about it. You know, the instant messaging won't deliver everything that we need to do right now. So I'm able to quickly elevate that up to a video call or a voice call. And within that video call, like I showed you earlier on, I can record that. So for example, we had a meeting earlier on, it was only 20 seconds, but we decided to record that. So that recording is fully logged there. I can go back and review that at a later stage. Maybe it was we were working on something important for the board meeting, and we just wanted to record that, yeah, we both agreed that the financial statements were correct, and we're both happy with signing them off and approving them. So again, very quick one-on-one communication. I suppose taking it from there, moving out of that one-on-one communication into our core team, what we have along here is the teams that we're working with. So these are the teams that I suppose the projects that I'm involved in. So some of these might be, for example, an organizational-wide team. So we want to communicate out to our entire staff base, both our management team, our financial teams, our various back office teams, but also to our frontline tellers as well. We're able to use Teams to disseminate out information. So it could be the latest COVID-19 updates, how to, what's our guidance on social distancing, how to wash our hands, all of those kind of things. So it allows us to very, very effectively show what's going on there, or give that information to people. Also, we might have some HR things, we want to communicate out, right, actually what's going on with annual leave. We've actually reduced the volume of annual leave right now. We can see that Alex has put a comment up there to say, hi Megan, how do I actually access our annual leave system? I need to book the time off. So I can easily reply to and say, well, actually, do you know what, we're using the Bamboo, please go there. So I can reply to him, and Alex can get that comment back, either immediately or whenever you choose to log into Teams again. So it gives us that ability to do that quick and easy conversation. So if we take it back a step and say, well, actually, let's say we're collaborating on something together. Let's say I'm working with Emily on a piece of work here. So I've been tic-tacking with Emily all morning. I've asked her how the project is going, and she replies back to say, yeah, everything's going great, but I need some help. I've been working on this document. I've got it as far as I can go, but can you help me deliver things a little bit further? So I'll just wait for that to refresh, and I'm just sending a message from Emily. Hopefully it pops up here. The demo gods allow it to happen. We'll give that a second. So Emily has created a channel here down called Sports. We're doing something with the local community on sports engagement, where we're hoping all these restrictions are going to be lifted later on this year. So we're putting out some flyers, getting them ready for August, September timeframe. So I can see about an hour ago, Emily uploaded this local flyer, and maybe she's asked me to take a look at it. So I can instantly jump into our community engagement team. I can look at the sports channel. I can access that file. Actually, there's the instant message from Emily coming back asking, can I help out? So I can open that up. Even though it is a Word document, I'm opening that up within Teams. I don't need to jump out into Word, and I can see the work that Emily has started to put together on it. So instantly, I'm kind of saving time. I'm being a bit more efficient. I'm seeing what's going on, and I'm able to start giving input very, very easily. So maybe I want to say, okay, well, do you know what? We want to make some changes in here. I don't want the team name in here. I want the club name in here instead of team name or something like that. And I can see that at the same time, actually, a little icon has appeared up here over in the top right beside comments. And I can see, do you know what? Actually, Emily is working on the same document at the same time. So, Emily's put something in here, test, and I can see exactly what changes Emily have made. So right now we have this document. This is just a community-based document, something we're going to send out in the future. We're both working on it at the same time. We can easily elevate this up into a video call and talk to each other as we're working on this and do things very, very efficiently. So again, if we think about the old way of working, I had an email, I attached this file to it, or maybe Emily attached it, sent it to me. A day or two later, I made some changes, sent it back to Emily. She made some further changes, so she sent it back to me again. So we're getting a lot of tic-tac back and forth and a lot of time wasted in something that should be fundamentally very, very simple. By leveraging Teams, we're able to do that very quick and easy conversation and communication and get that document done, get all the work done in one fell swoop and say, well, actually, we've blocked off an hour in our calendar to do this. We have the document done. Great, it's ready to go. We've saved on time for everyone. So a lot of advantages in there. So in terms of thinking about our board and our board meetings, how could we leverage Teams to run things more effectively? So I have set up a channel here called Board Meetings, or I set up a team here called Board Meetings, and I put a few things in that. I put a draft document section, I put our end of year reports in, and I put a section in for the actual board meeting. So if we think about the draft document section, well, we want to set up a way of, I suppose, improving efficiency, getting sure that the draft documents and the actual ultimately approved documents for the board are done very, very efficiently. So what I've actually done in the background with this, I've set up what's called a workflow in here. So I've set some automation up here. And what the automation is doing, anytime anyone uploads a file into the draft document section, it's creating a post for me here to ask me to review it. So in this scenario here, I'm Megan, I'm the one that's responsible for signing off all the official board documents. So Alex has uploaded a file here, the latest IT security guidance from the central bank. Now, the second he uploaded that document, this message automatically appeared in here. But not only that, I also got an email notification in here to say, well, actually, you've got this review requirement for the IT security document, and you have to approve it or reject it. So in other words, you have to decide, is this approved for the board meeting or not? So I want to quickly look in and say, okay, well, let me check that this is the right IT security document, that this is the one we actually need for the board, and it's going to, I suppose, be validated by me entirely. And again, as we're just waiting for the demo gods to allow us access in, I'll just tick back to this. So I have my email in here. I've reviewed that document, which has just loaded up here now. So yes, the IT security, yes, that's exactly what I need. That's what we need for the board meeting. So I can go back into my email and I can simply say, approve that. And this is the latest IT security doc. And I can submit that for approval. So what that has done is set up that automated workflow. It's allowed us to approve that document. It means now that when I jump into my monthly meeting channel, and this is the actual live channel where our board members will come in and where they'll review everything, an automatic post has been generated. Megan Brown has approved the IT security guidance. What it's also done is it's actually moved that file, which was in here. So we had the IT security file in here in the draft documents channel, and it's automatically moved that file into the monthly meeting channel. So here we have our IT security guidance that was originally created by Alex, and he put up there 42 minutes ago, has automatically been moved into this channel. So now we're in that scenario where we've introduced a level of automation in here. We've introduced a level of business process to help with our board meetings and to help with the organization of things. And if we think about that, both Alex and Megan, who are collaborating on this, neither of them actually needed to be in the office. They didn't need to be beside each other. They didn't need to pick up the phone to each other. The first person, Alex, said, yeah, I uploaded that document. Then Megan got an automatic notification to do something to approve that document. And once she approved it, the system in the background said, right, I'm going to move that document from the draft section, because it's approved, into the live section of the monthly meeting. So a very, very effective way teams can start to automate things and introduce additional layers of things. So if we think about our monthly meeting channel here, this is where we've invited our board members into. We have a list of all the conversation that has gone on previously. We can see a number of documents have been approved over time here. The board members know that they can go in here and see, right, actually, what was the conversation, what documents have been put in. But we can also deliver a lot of key information. So we might want to encourage our board to say, well, listen, our board meeting is once every second week, the second and fourth Thursday of the month. It's always at 11 o'clock. But you know what, we'd ask that before that you go in and you start reviewing things. First and foremost, you go in and you review all the files that are up there. You look at what's going on with financial statements, you review the meeting minutes from previous meetings, so I can easily access any of them if I'm a board member coming in here. We also ask that, we've produced a Power BI dashboard with our financial performance in here. We ask that you look at that ahead of time as well. So again, me as a board member, I'm just in the Teams application. I'm able to review what's going on very quickly. I can see any meeting notes that were created, maybe they're from the last meeting, or some additional notes in addition to the agenda that I need. And what we can also do is get a level of approval. We can build in what's called Microsoft Forms, which is again part of Microsoft 365, and get each member of the board to approve that, you know what, we want approval, we want to log that all the documents were approved by the board. So I can instantly go, yes, I reviewed the minutes of the previous meeting, the financial position, the audit committee report, the latest compliance report. I reviewed all of them and the loan list, and I'm going to submit that. So what that has done is that is logged in the background into SharePoint and into an Excel file. It's actually logged that me as a board member, I've completed that survey. I've looked at all those documents, and it's logged the date and time and my login. So it's immutable that I've actually posted that form through. So in here then, what I'm allowed to do is to say, okay, well, let's say it's time to actually start our board meeting. We have a scheduled board meeting in here. We can see actually who's been invited into that. All the documents are there. The board have reviewed things in advance, and I can instantly join that or kick off things very, very quickly. For the purposes of this meeting, I'm going to connect without audio so we don't get feedback or anything like that. So me as Megan, as the organizer thing, I'm going to start off the board meetings. I can instantly view the side, right, we're seeing that we have Alex, Emily and Lynn there on our board. We're waiting for them to join in. But before anything kicks off, I'm going to start recording that board meeting so that, as the conversation happens, as we start to approve things, as we start to go through the various documents, I can see exactly what's going on. And, if some of our board members weren't able to attend, they'll be able to review that recording at a later date. Likewise, I can share my screen. So I can just, with a click of one button, I can share a particular file, or I can share my entire desktop. So I might be moderating the meeting and I want to say, okay, well, the first thing I'm going to share is our financial statements. The next thing I'm going to share is, the minutes of the last meeting. The next thing we're going to share is which loans are going to be approved this week, kind of thing. So it allows me to share information. Everyone can see my screen. Everyone can see exactly what's going on, and everyone can give approval. And again, from the point of view that as a board member, I can be coming in on a tablet, I can be coming in on my home network, and I'm getting that full experience, both in terms of video, in terms of being able to see people, but also being able to be on the same page as everyone else. I'm able to see what's on screen versus a scenario of someone saying, well, now can you open up the minutes of the last meeting? And I have to scramble to find, okay, well, where are the minutes of the last meeting? Whereas Megan here can actually share that directly on screen. So I can stop recording that meeting, and we'll press stop recording. Just one thing to note, I suppose, you'll see this bar at the top about the recording being saved. That also comes up during the process as well. So every attendee is notified that this meeting is recorded, and they're notified throughout that this has been recorded. So from a compliance point of view, a lot of good features in there. And then I can exit out of the meeting, and that meeting will be saved there in the channel within our monthly meeting forever and a day. So it means that I can reference that back at any point in the future. So that gives you a sense of, how, given, I suppose the remote requirements that a lot of us are faced right now, how you could deliver a board meeting, certain aspects of it. But I think it's important to note that we don't necessarily need the COVID-19 restrictions or social distancing restrictions. This can be something that, you could use for training across branches, board meetings, committee meetings, but also engaging with your customers as well. And just to touch on one aspect of that very briefly, there's a facility within Microsoft 365 called Bookings. So what it allows you to do, it allows you to publish either on your web page or on your Facebook page an automatic booking form for customers. So you can set up the booking form, and you can say, do you know what, I want to have online loan consultations between 10 and 12 every Tuesday and every Thursday. Our loans team are going to block off their time. They're going to be at their desk, either at home or in the office, wherever they are. And if someone wants to book a video consultation, they can. So this is an example of a web page I put together. Again, very, very simple to do, part of Microsoft 365. So someone, a consumer or a customer of ours, can come in here and say, well, actually, do you know what? I need to talk about the COVID-19 financial issues with one of your consultants. I'd like to chat to Megan about that. I would like to do it on Monday of next week. And I can see that Megan has 3 available slots, and I'd like to book that in for 11 o'clock. And I can quickly and easily add my details in here. So I can go email is Finian, put in my personal email address, my phone number, etc. I can also ask for extra information, and I can put in my notes, and I can book that. What happens in the background now is that Megan is going to get an email to say, hey, you've been booked in. You've had a request there from Finian Ali, who's one of our customers. He wants a video consultation with you at 11 o'clock next Monday. Me, as Finian Ali, I'll also get an email into my Gmail to say, you've been booked in, your booking has been confirmed, but I'll also have a link as well on that. So it means I can click on that link. Megan will be there via video chat through Teams to have that conversation with me, to discuss my requirements, to say, okay, well, yes, we're going to process a new loan for you, or we're going to restructure your the arrangements we have with you, or do whatever. But I can do it very, very effectively and very, very easily. And there's that email just popping in there now into Megan's mailbox to say, you've got a new booking from one of our customers, Finian Ali, and here's the time that he wants to book, and there's the Teams meeting. So that's in my calendar. I know that at 11 o'clock next Monday, I'm going to have that one-on-one conversation with one of our customers. So I suppose what we're doing is we're leveraging Teams both from an internal communication point of view, but also from an external communication point of view, and delivering real value back to the people who we work with. So conscious of the time we have, and that is a kind of a sweeping demo. There's lots more we could discuss as well as that. But really, in summary, using Teams effectively, it gives us that quick, effective communication, the instant messaging, the video calling. It allows us to view information within context. So maybe it's board meetings, maybe it's about projects we're working on with the community, or maybe it's about internal modernization projects, or maybe even future consolidation within the business, and managing all the aspects of that. And it also allows us to extend things further. So bringing in maybe financial data from Power BI, bookings or scheduling bookings with customers, and also doing things like automation, moving files from one place to another, setting up approval flows within our business. I think one of the other key advantages, just to touch on as well, is that Teams is for all your staff. And previously we may have had rules within our credit union that, okay, our back office staff, absolutely, they'll have email and they'll have be given access to certain IT systems. But our front of line staff, our tellers, well, they just need access to our actual credit union application, and that's it. What we can do is we can give them access to Teams as well. We can say, well, listen, we know you have a personal mobile device. If you install the Teams application and log in with your login details, you'll be able to access everything as well. So you'll be able to see our latest training materials. You'll be able to see the staff roster. You'll be able to schedule annual leave. You'll be able to see everything that's going on within the business, and you'll also be able to communicate effectively across that. We're not giving you access to a credit union email account because you don't need one. It's not part of your core job, but we are giving you access to the Teams tool to allow you to effectively communicate across the business and for us to effectively communicate with you. So moving on from there, and again, I'm conscious of the speed I'm going through this. I suppose I'd like to talk a little bit about security, compliance, and trust, because all of these features are great from a technology point of view and from a use case point of view, like I've demonstrated there, but it's important we always put security and compliance at the heart of everything we do. And just to touch on briefly, I suppose some people may often ask me, you keep mentioning Microsoft 365 and we're using Office 365. What is the actual difference between the two? So subtly, a lot of it is built around that security and compliance, where Office 365 gives you core productivity features out of the box, your email in the cloud, your Teams, your files in the cloud, etc. What it doesn't do is give you many of those advanced security features that are important, multi-factor authentication, device management, all of those kind of features that are critical to any business in this day and age. If we look at some of the reports that are coming out from Interpol and Europol over the last number of weeks, we're seeing the increase in phishing attacks, the increase in identity theft, and they're consistently messaging out to all businesses to say, listen guys, it's important that you have a level of phishing protection, that you introduce multi-factor authentication, that you introduce more and more data protection tools to protect your staff and to protect your data ultimately. So looking at what's in Microsoft 365, just to touch briefly on some of the aspects, multi-factor authentication is a core part of that with conditional access. So what does that actually mean? Well, it means I'm not only using a username and password, and I'm not only using maybe a PIN number that's on my phone, but the system is intelligently looking at going, well, what device am I coming in on? Where am I coming in from? Is this a company managed device, or is it someone's home laptop on a home network from outside of Ireland? And it's very intelligently looking at, okay, all those signals coming together and say, well, actually, I'm going to allow you access or not allow you access based on number of signals, not just a simple username and password. In terms of control, I suppose to touch on the control aspect within Microsoft Teams, there are a lot of background controls that give you the ability to effectively deliver things, but also effectively control who can post information, who can access that information. So in other words, I can decide who is within my team, who is within my channels. I can decide who is allowed to upload files, who is allowed to post to a particular channel, and who is allowed organizing those meetings. So it gives me very, very granular control to make sure that I'm not allowing in members of staff that shouldn't have access to this, or I'm allowing board members view certain things but maybe not post in certain channels. So I get very, very granular control. In addition to that, I suppose thinking about your compliance officers and maybe some of your IT team behind the scenes, I'm also given reporting and tools to rate how compliant I am, rate how secure I am. So within the Microsoft 365 tool set, there's a lot of very easily accessible ways to say, well, actually, we're using all this cloud technology. It's delivering a lot of productivity improvements, but we just want to get a sense of how secure are we? Can we make ourselves more secure? Can we reduce our risk ultimately? And things like the Compliance Center and Security Center within Microsoft 365 do that. So really, we often ask people, think of this in 4 pillars. When you're using these tools, make sure you're securing the front door, make sure you're giving a great experience to your team, not making it difficult for them to access these systems. Make sure you're securing your devices regardless of where they are. And we're going to assume that more and more people will have devices outside of the 4 walls of the office. But again, board members coming in from home, maybe some of our staff out there actively engaging with the community, maybe other members of our staff working between different branches on a day-to-day basis. So it's important that you bring in those security protocols. And really the last aspect to touch on is how do we start to make this successful? How do we make sure everyone is having a good experience, that this is delivering, I suppose, real value to everyone? First and foremost, one of the critical aspects of this, and specifically when we talk about voice and video calling, is having the correct equipment. And correct equipment doesn't necessarily mean expensive. So for example, my own setup here, I have a laptop, I have a 24-inch monitor, and I have a simple Logitech webcam that does both my video and my voice. So that's my setup here. But the beauty of that is my equipment, especially my webcam, is Teams certified. So that call quality is always there, that video quality is always there. So it's important we give our staff, and we give not only our board members, but the teams that are interacting or using these tool sets, we give them the correct equipment to have a good experience. Likewise, when we're involved in this, when we're delivering remote meetings, or when we're using Microsoft Teams to engage with the board or committee or deliver training, it's important that we apply the same rules that we do for a normal meeting, that we prepare in advance, that we get the various documents ready, that we review the minutes, that during meetings we're actually leveraging the tools, that we're co-authoring a document, as in working on a document at the same time, versus someone sitting there taking paper-based notes and having to spend the same amount of time typing them up thereafter. And then after the meeting, maybe if we weren't in attendance, reviewing the recording, reviewing the chat history, and reviewing all the documents that got us to those stages. And like I said, some of those tools are natively within Teams. So that ability to work on documents together, that ability to do those virtual huddles, those quick and snappy meetings very, very quickly. But it's important that we're actually, moving from a scenario of the traditional conference call based aspect, the voice only aspect, into a video aspect very, very quickly, because then we're able to see who is talking, we're able to see their facial expressions, their body language, and we're able to get a much, much more interactive experience in anything. Just to touch on some of the resources very briefly, I suppose there's a lot in this, and I'm conscious we only have a short amount of time today, but how do you get started with all this? How do you start if you have Teams today, or maybe you don't have Teams? Certainly come and talk to us in Action Point, and there's a lot of training material out there on the web. Microsoft have published their own training videos. We also in Action Point operate the Action Point Academy, which delivers virtual training for Microsoft Teams. So certainly we can help you and your credit union get more advanced, leverage the technology in a much, much more efficient way, but also in a much, much more secure way. So from there, I'm going to move into questions. I'm sure you'll have a few, but feel free to ask.
Brilliant, Finian, thank you very much, and a very comprehensive demo of Teams, and just showing the power of easy collaboration, the forms integration for approval and setting up, and also the Power BI elements there as well. And look, it was a whistle-stop tour, but thank you very much for that. I just have the one question in the box at the moment, so please, guys, do get your questions in. We're here for the next 10 or 15 minutes, so I think use the opportunity to pick Finian's brain a little bit. I'm just going to kick off with the poll that we ran, and some interesting responses there. So the poll, just to remind yourselves, is what is the biggest challenge faced by your credit union with regard to COVID-19? More than half of all respondents saying that communication with customers was their greatest challenge. Communication with employees got 8%, health and safety in branch was 17%, and cybersecurity compliance was 25%. Finian, can you talk to some of the figures and the responses we're seeing here?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think communication with customers obviously being the largest one there, and I think using those aspects of Teams, using the bookings feature, using those video calling things is a real advantage. Certainly in Action Point, we're communicating out with our customers on a regular basis, and I would safely say 70% of that communication right now is done through Teams and done over the video calling. So I think it's something that should be encouraged. We've seen it become adopted in other industries very rapidly over the last few weeks, specifically in terms of GP communications, pharmacies adopting it. So I think in the financial industry as well, and with credit unions, the tool set is there. I think people are accustomed to using those video calling aspects in terms of our customers. So it's definitely there to be leveraged. I think that the other big one there in terms of cybersecurity and compliance, it's a conversation I'm having on a daily basis with people. There often is an assumption that, okay, we have a certain tool set, therefore we are secure, let's set it and forget it. It's important that you're constantly reviewing your cybersecurity, that you're reviewing, that you're asking the question to say, well, actually, do we have the best of breed security for our business, or that is appropriate for our business? And ensuring that the key two messages I keep banging a drum on are around multi-factor authentication and phishing protection, because they're the biggest threats to businesses right now in terms of your network being compromised.
Excellent. So just a question here from Jerry. I think it was actually the follow-up from the poll, because I didn't include it as one of the responses. Was my main issue is communications with board members and holding remote committee and board meetings. So I think maybe an option I hadn't included, if you look at the broader sphere of employees, was board meetings. But I think I think Finian, you kind of went through that with the team that you set up for board meetings specifically. So hopefully that can kind of that kind of work to Jerry's advantage.
I think, Peter, that demo gives an insight to it. Certainly what I'd say on the back of this, if you're experiencing challenges with board meetings, committee meetings, etc., follow up with us. We have a process to bring you through to, I suppose, set up your teams properly, bring your board on board, make sure they have the correct devices, make sure they know how to communicate things, but also help you with that process as well, because I think that's a key aspect to it. It's all well and good having these tools and saying, okay, we're going to set up a virtual meeting. But if you don't do that preparation aspect in terms of getting our documents ready, putting them in the correct location, and giving people access to them, the meeting can be a bit clunky. So if the preparation is done correctly, it means that people can review those documents in advance. The board can be prepped for it, and it allows potentially for those meetings to be a bit shorter and a bit more effective.
Yeah, well, I think we can all hope for that one. In Teams, can two or more people update on Excel at the same time and see each other's updates in real time? That's from Shane.
Absolutely, Shane. Yeah, that's possible, because again, all Teams is doing it's front-ending those normal features within Office 365. So one thing I'd stress on that, Shane, it does depend on where that document. So if that document is sitting on your on-premise file server, you're not going to be able to do that real-time collaboration experience. Whereby if that document is within Teams or within SharePoint, you're going to be able to do that real-time collaboration. But the way to get around that is using desktop sharing, opening up a video call and saying, okay, well, we're going to have that conversation about working on a document because it's sitting in a location that can't be collaborated on. So happily to follow up on that one in more detail if you want, Shane.
Super, thanks, Finian. Another question in here. I'm currently working from home. Any aspect of working from home that you need to be cautious about?
Yeah, I think it's important that we all realize that people who work from home right now, there's other users on the same network. I'm on my home network. I'm not in an office environment. So I think it's on us as business owners to ensure that the devices we're giving to our customers are properly managed. And, I've seen over the last few weeks a lot of businesses scrambling to get laptops out to people, various devices out to people, but coming from a security mentality of within the office, insofar as I'm setting up the security profile of this device to be in the office. Whereas we do need to consider that the security profile on that device should be a home security profile, much more restrictive, much more managed, but it's allow the user to work effectively at the same time. So be cautious. I think, make sure you have a company managed device, but also ensure that your company is giving you those correct security tools. Again, the multi-factor authentication and the phishing protection are the two key ones. They're the ones that have the single biggest impact from a risk point of view. With security, it is like an onion. There's many, many layers to it. The more layers you can put in, the better. But certainly they're the two biggest impact aspects right now.
Great stuff, Finian. I have a couple of questions here myself, just to maybe expand on the security piece a little bit more. You're talking about anti-phishing. You're talking about multi-factor authentication. If I'm one of our listeners tuning in right now, how do I go about? What's my next step to ensure that I have these security features up to speed?
Yeah, so I think it's important you speak with your IT provider. Hopefully it's at Action Point. If not, we'd be more than delighted to be your IT provider and with your IT person in the business who's in charge of it. And I think it's something that, I'm certainly a fan of, putting IT and IT security as an agenda on the board meeting. While we do have a board that will have a broad spectrum of expertise and may not fully understand that, it's important that we are putting these things front and center and saying, well, yes, we are talking to our IT provider about introducing better layers of security. And not only that, we're putting a time frame on that. By next week or next month, we're going to be confident that we're more secure than we were before.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Yeah, it really is a top-down approach when it comes to security. What are the other security concerns that we're seeing at the moment, Finian, or that you're seeing in the marketplace, or maybe some of the gaps that people can maybe hope to fill in?
Yeah, I think that this fear is probably one of the biggest things out there. Fear, and I suppose the aspect of the scramble to get remote working done. So, certainly credit unions being an essential service, there is to a certain degree business as usual. But I alluded to it earlier on in terms of the consolidation aspect. There is a much more, the real world right now is that people are working across locations and are working across different branches. So it's important that we put that laser focus on secure, but also not only rely on the technology to deliver it, that we actually educate, that we train our team on cybersecurity awareness, that they're knowledgeable about what they do. And even when people are from home, and to a certain degree, there's a comfort factor about being at home. Maybe our guard is down, but we do need to make people aware that, guys, you are at home. We know you're going to work just as effectively, but have your guard up just as much as you would when outside the office. I think I just
Yeah,
see a follow-up question there just on the teams. I suppose one thing to note about teams, about board members coming in, people can absolutely still come in over traditional landline and traditional phone. Fair enough, they may not get the same blown screen sharing and video experience, but that integration with the traditional landline and traditional phone is there. So for board members who may not be confident in using a tablet or a laptop, they're still able to come in over the phone and hear all the communication in advance as well. So just be aware that that is there out of the box too.
fantastic. Um, if anyone has any more questions, please do get them in before we finish up. I'll just go through some of the resources that Action Point have currently, and I'll include all of these in an email. For our remote working services, please go to actionpoint.ie/remote working. We've also got a lot of new content coming out looking at both the holistic and the technological aspects of remote working. So please check out the webpage there as well. Some really good blog and insights from across the team, and Finian being one of the key contributors in there as well. We're running these webinars each week. So there's a specific dedicated Ask Me Anything webinar that runs on every Wednesday. So if you're experimenting with Teams or you're trying out new features, it's a great opportunity to ask Finian any questions that you may have. We'll also be setting up some virtual training sessions very soon. So if you want to send a quick email to myself, phunt@actionpoint.ie, or to fnally@actionpoint.ie, we'll include you in an invite to that training. Can I one more, I suppose, final small thing? We have a survey just after this webinar. There's a few questions in that just around the current climate and some of your I suppose some of your predictions and maybe some of your behaviors looking forward as well. So if you could just take a couple of minutes to fill out that survey, we'd really appreciate any and all of the feedback. Yeah, so good question there as well about seeing a repeat of today's webinar. So for anyone who's in late, there'll be a full video recording attached to an email just after this. Finian will also include a copy of his slides, so that'll be sent out in the next couple of hours once I get the slides off to Finian. So yeah, you can catch up there if needs be. Without further ado, I think that's just about it for today. I just want to thank everyone for joining us. Finian, have you anything to add before we close out?
Not a thing. Just thanks again to everyone for joining us. And again, if you have any queries, if you're looking for more advice about running those board meetings or engaging with people, don't hesitate to reach out. My contact details are on the screen there now. But thanks again.
Excellent. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you again soon.